It was 2024, the year I finally decided to step out, have a social life, and learn some new skills. It was like fulfilling my bucket list. Part of me also wanted to be able to talk to girls. Because if you are raised in India, trust me, you grew up with an awkwardness around girls. So I joined a class, and there she was, a cute introvert girl. Now I was the new guy in the class. So I went around introducing myself to everyone. And then I went to her and said, "Hey, I'm Adarsh. I'm the new student." Over time, we became friends, not best friends, but more like familiar faces. A few weeks later, I asked for a number. But I was not the chasing type. So I would let things happen naturally. Now, slowly, we became good friends and we created a tea ritual. Like after class, we would go and have some tea. Sometimes she would wait for me, sometimes I would wait for her. It was all cute. The girl who barely talked to anyone was spending time with me. My inner boy was like, wow! And that's when my strategy brain kicked in. I would remember things she said, things she liked. But don't judge me. I was new to all this and I did not want it to mess up. But again, I was not the clingy type. I would never chase. Now, externally, I was calm, composed, not chasing. But internally, I would analyze everything, like 5 steps ahead of reality. I would not script things, but I would definitely plan things. And then came a time when we became more comfortable with each other, and I would flirt with her lightly, and she got the hint. Soon after that, we started dating. And that's when the tables turned. Because my investment levels were now rising. Now I was still composed, getting to know her, but somewhere down the line, I was projecting a future with her already, also known as maladaptive daydreaming. And that was my mistake. Now, I was mature, but I was new to all this. In my mind, if two people like each other and they align in mindset, morals, and principles, then everything should work out, right? But I missed out on a very important data point: her nervous system. Over the next few weeks, we became closer. I got access to her personal life, and that felt so rewarding. I mean, we were finally getting there. But then something happened. I started noticing she would be warm on some days and cold and distant on other days. I did not get it. I thought maybe it's slow burn. That's good, right? Like taking things slowly. And during this time, my mind would really work overtime because I was slowly getting attached. My brain would try to imagine scenarios to remove uncertainty. I mean, that's what the brain does. It tries to predict the future to minimize risk. The only problem is when you don't have enough data, most of your predictions will be pretty misleading. But slowly, I realized something was different. something was off. The closer we got, the more distant I felt from her. Also known as avoidant attachment. And that confusion is where my brain started creating stories. Like, what's even happening? Now, for a normal person, getting close means a better bond, more emotional intimacy. But for her, closeness meant threat, followed by distance. In other words, her nervous system would create distance as soon as there was real closeness. And if you are on the receiving end of this, you'll be left so much confused. And that's when my brain was getting anxious. A single late reply, and my mind would create scenarios in my head. A small misunderstanding or conflict, and I would leave all my work and ruminate about this all day. Finally, after a few weeks, we planned another date after a long time. But now things were getting serious. I was getting more attached. But after going home, she would disappear for days. It was like dealing with two different personalities. One would be warm on the date, and the other would feel like a stranger. My anxiety was getting at its peak. And then came the doomsday. A week later, she called me and asked me to meet. That's when she confronted her own pattern. Her emotional capacity was maxed out. She was shutting down emotionally, tears in her eyes, and there she was telling me, I haven't felt this comfortable with anyone in the last 2 years, but I'm losing access to my feelings. And trust me, I was confused. But I knew I could not fix her. I cannot convince someone who is not willing. And that started my second phase of processing all this. I went no contact. Like, no rudeness, but I would not engage with her when I saw her in class. It was not out of revenge or hatred. It was to protect myself. I needed to get out of that loop in my head. So we became like two strangers in the same space with some memories. And during this time, I started ruminating. Have you watched that scene from Doctor Strange where he analyzes a million different outcomes of one situation? Well, I was doing the same. The only problem is that when you do that, you stay stuck in the same loop. I was so focused on the potential I saw in her that I was not seeing reality. And when you keep ruminating about one thing, your brain turns like, okay, so you want to discuss this problem? I will give you more thoughts of this problem. The funny part is, people who have depth can create rich emotional experiences, but it becomes all very counterproductive if it's not directed properly. Just like a river flowing with full force, but no direction. So finally, I decided to choose reality. Reality that trying to fix a person who has already left the room means self-abandonment. Reality that it was always a no-win configuration. No matter what I would have done differently. I accepted that yes, I could understand her fear, the fact that the last time she opened up her heart, it almost destroyed her and wounded her nervous system. But that doesn't mean I have to choose someone who cannot choose me. And that's exactly when I stopped taking all this personally. So if there is one advice I would give to my past self, it would be to strategize less and live more. Because when you create castles in the cloud, you are no longer living in the reality. And lastly, boredom and inaction is like the breeding ground of rumination and daydreaming. Because more imagination means less time for reality. You have to catch hold of yourself and redirect. That is self-awareness. It's almost like you being a separate entity and looking at your thoughts and emotions from a third-person view. The goal is to feel everything, understand everything, validate your feelings, and then choose what's right for you, even if it feels very painful in that moment.